Good morning and welcome to Forums That Matter. I'm Susan Alhorn, a member of the Forum Committee and the coordinator for today's forum. Thank you all for coming. The title of today's forum is The Most Important Election Ever. Will artificial intelligence choose our president? AI has already had profound technological impacts on many areas of our individual lives. These are both positive and negative. Given our political environment and the fierce competition between the political parties, voter misinformation via AI is definitely growing. Large, powerful companies are definitely lobbying and capitalizing on the profits associated with the use of AI. There's been no significant congressional legislation that regulates the misuse of AI. These are some of the reasons why our Forum Committee chose AI and the upcoming election as our topic this morning. I would now like to introduce our speakers. Youngjin Yu, Associate Dean of Research at Case Western, and Anthony Perlatti, Director of the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections. Dr. Yu, a Case Western Weatherhead Professor of Innovation and Information Systems, has received over $5 million in research grants from the National Science Foundation, NASA, and other organizations. He's the founding director of XLab, a CASE program that helps organizations transform their operations into digital technologies. He's taught digital innovation strategy in universities around the world. And he's also consulted with leading companies such as NASA, Intel, Samsung, and many others. Anthony Perlatti has headed the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections as its director for the past 5 years. Extremely dedicated to public service, he's been with the BOE for 17 years. Director Perlatti is widely respected in the election administration community as an innovative leader. He's a trustee of the Ohio Association of Election Officials, and he has served as the vice president and member of the Ohio Legislative Committee for many years. Our speakers will give their presentation from now until 9:30, and we'll have audience questions and answers from 9:30 to 9:55. Please turn off your phones or put them in airline mode. We appreciate your cooperation. And I'll now turn this over to our speakers. Thank you for joining us. And I think coffee is in process, but it will soon be ready.
All right, I need to turn it on. So good morning, Susan. Thank you for the invitation and the introduction. I'm going to share my screen. My name is Youngjin Yu. I'm a faculty member at the Weatherhead School of Management, and I have studied digital technology and how it changes organization, business, mostly business, over the last about 30 years or so. This is an interesting time to live. I have seen and studied technology all through my life. I studied coding when I was a high school kid in Korea, and I have not quite seen something like what we are dealing with in terms of AI. This is the third, I think, event, I'm counting, that I was in this week or past week alone on this topic of AI, all different aspects. So certainly we're living in an interesting time with technology. So I'm going to just jump right in. I have a prepared small video for you.
Hello, I'm Youngjin Yu, Professor of Management and Associate Dean of Research at the Weatherhead School of Management, Case Western Reserve University. Today, I want to discuss the double-edged sword of generative AI in elections. On one hand, AI can enhance voter education, providing personalized information about candidates and issues. It can increase accessibility for disabled voters and streamline the voting process. However, the risks are significant. AI-generated deepfakes and misinformation can spread rapidly, potentially swaying public opinion with false narratives. There's also the concern of AI being used to manipulate voter data or even interfere with electronic voting systems. As we navigate this new landscape, it's crucial to develop robust safeguards and educate the public about digital literacy. Now, I have a surprising revelation for you all. Everything you've just seen and heard, my appearance, my voice, even my gestures, was entirely generated by AI. I'm not the real Professor Yu, but a digital creation. This demonstration underscores the power and potential dangers of AI in our democratic processes. As we move forward, we must remain vigilant and proactive in harnessing AI's benefits while mitigating its risks. Thank you for your attention to this critical issue.
So
Hello?
obviously this is fake, and it's not quite good because those who know me will never, confuse this one being me. But the point here is that I spent about 5 minutes reading the script that this company provided to generate my avatar. It took a day for them to turn that into an avatar that I could use. And I spent literally 10 seconds in writing a prompt to large language model to generate the script for this event. Click a button, it generated script. I didn't even read it. I cut and paste, drop it into the software, push a button, 25 minutes later, I got that video. And I paid $200 to subscribe that service. I thought maybe I will have some other uses down the road. That was the only option I had to create my personal avatar. If I wanted somebody else's, and if I am white Caucasian person, I might have used existing avatar. Unfortunately, there was no high quality Asian face. So certainly bias issue is something that we need to work on. So generative AI come in many different forms of media. So, as you saw, was probably the most advanced one, video and audio. The one that we are most familiar with is text, sound, images. It is possible to do all of those. And it can encode, meaning it can read and understand the text or understand to a degree sound and to a degree images or videos. And then it can decode, generate new content based on its understanding. So University of Chicago and Stanford University put out a report and about the potential use of AI in good or bad for the general election 2024. So the obvious one is degrading the information environment. This type of deepfake, misinformation, and or amplifying information in a particular targeted way. It's going to be an issue. Manipulation and micro-targeting. So what that means is that, we could really target certain group of people and then really amplify the message that they would be, vulnerable to, so that their mind might change. There are some positive uses. There's a legitimate use of Gen AI. Things like people could, campaigns could use to automate email generation, and then they stand behind it. It will improve their efficiency. They could actually reach out to certain targeted, audience with the message that they generated, the message that they want to stand behind, explaining policies and so on. Individuals could also use Gen AI in your own way. You could use this, Gen AI to summarize policy positions. If candidates, publish a long policy document and you don't have time to read them all carefully, you can ask your own, large language model, whether it's ChatGPT or Google Gemini or other services that you could trust. It has to be public, open, so that they do not lie, and they generally do a good job. So I will give you an example later. So this one is I used a service called Claude, which tends to be doing a good substantive summary or writing if you want to do more sophisticated writing. So this clause, I add, so, we are all bombarded with presidential election and information, and I'm tired of it. So I said, what about, I recently became an American citizen after about 30 years of living in America. Finally, I said, I need to vote. So my wife and I became a citizen. And so, I need to learn more about, Senate candidates' position. So I went to Claude and said, can you please summarize their positions and then organize them in a table? And it took that position. So when you actually read this summary, it doesn't look like they have a whole lot of differences, but then it added the following one. There's a nuanced analysis. And then, although they may all appear to saying the same thing, but when you actually read it, there's some differences. So the AI could actually help you to understand some of the complex positions and policies, its implications, and so on. So if you want to know what is the general impact of, tariff on the economy, well, you could ask ChatGPT, what's the impact, and then you will actually get a pretty good understanding of without attending, macroeconomics 101. So these are legitimate use. There's the Democrats use and experimented with different 14 campaigns in Virginia last year. And they found that the use of Gen AI improved 3 to 4 times more fundraising dollars. So apparently, it could actually really speak to certain people in certain way. Well, what can you do? Well, I suggest that you have to remain skeptical, critical, vigilant about a variety of information you see, you receive, you read, mainly particularly if the content contains sensational story. And you should rely on open broadcasted content over closed social network content. That includes email, that includes chat, that includes WhatsApp, Instagram. Here's the thing. When it comes to fake news, mainstream media, even if you disagree with them, might be more reliable than emails that you receive from your best buddies, right? Because no one can watch all the email traffic between individuals, and that content could be potentially fake news and misinformation, and people will not know, the public will not know. The person who send those, transmit those are not liable. At least mainstream media are. So I think you should think about that. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. As you said, I'm Tony Perlatti. I've been director of the Board of Elections since 2019. And so I was the director during the 2020 unprecedented COVID election, thought that that would be my most difficult presidential election I would ever conduct, and maybe not. So this one is going to be just as challenging, but for different reasons than a pandemic. And a lot of it has to do with the things like misinformation, disinformation, and the way how the country has become divided, and they use these tools to divide all. But what I want to kind of hit on today, and I'll just briefly go through some of the operational things. So while we just heard about all this misinformation and how what we anticipate a lot in the election industry is that the campaigns will be the ones and organizations primarily doing that against the other candidates and things like that. But when it comes to the actual election administration, administering the election to make sure that everything runs the way it's supposed to, I think there's a lot of safeguards in place that should give people confidence in processes that are, no matter who you support or positions that you take, it doesn't impact what we do at the Board of Elections, because we just administer elections. And so my computer isn't working so well, so Laura's going to help me with the slides. And again, briefly go through, because I know everybody has questions that they want to ask. So the voting process starts with voter registration. And in order to vote, your ticket to vote is having a registration on file with the Board of Elections. And there are multiple ways to do that. And it's in person, come down to the board, mailing it to the card, or you can do things online, but most of it is paper-based. So you're still doing a piece of paper, you have a pen, you are writing that, you're putting that information in, and we're getting that. So it's not something that's getting auto-generated. If they do use the online system, that system goes through the Secretary of State's office. It requires 2 forms of identification that you need to have. And if information is just made up, it is caught throughout the process. So that's some things that people should have some confidence in. And the main thing that a lot of the things that we use at the Board of Elections is a person's signature. And a lot's driven off whether you're voting, signing a petition, filling out an application. A lot of it comes back to that signature, and that's the main thing, one of the main things that we use to ensure that you are who you say you are. Also, what happens is when we get a registration, automatically through our systems, it sends a check to the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles, the Social Security Administration, and it's looking for, is the ID correct? Does this person even exist? So not just that ID, but is there such a person and that type of information? Gonna hop on there now, sure. So we do have safeguards on that first part of the process. So then another item that's key and critical in Ohio is that Ohio is a paper-based system, meaning that you're either voting on a paper ballot or you're voting on a touch screen machine that creates the paper trail. Now in Cuyahoga County, we utilize paper ballots. So everyone is voting on paper, they're taking a pen and they're marking that. So there's not any kind of online or electronic way to mark that ballot. It is physically a person taking it and marking that ballot. All things are reviewed by bipartisan employees at the Board of Elections. And whenever we're moving documents or ballot from one spot to another, it's bipartisan teams. They're signing chain of custody. We know exactly who touched what last and where we're moving from point A to point B. All the equipment that we utilize is certified. So it's not that we can just go up to Target or Walmart and buy stuff off the shelf and utilize it. It's certified equipment that is created to verify, again, all these paper things that individuals, that humans are marking. And then we have a lot of government oversight to help keep everything on the up and up. Next. Now, one major thing that should give individuals comfort with our voting equipment, so that scanner that you put your ballot in is never connected to the internet. It's not even allowed to have a modem in it. There cannot be any kind of connectivity. It has one cord, power cord, and that goes into the wall so we can power that machine up. As well as when we create the ballot, when we tabulate the ballot, it is on computers, but it's on closed networks. It's not on something that is connected to the network. So it's in a room that is secure with cameras and bipartisan key access and all those things to ensure that nothing ever touches the internet. Now you do see results that are posted on the internet, but it's not out of that system. We download results onto a thumb drive, take it to a computer that is connected to the internet and upload that. Then that thumb drive goes in a safe. And we get a brand new one and we open it up the next time we report. So we'll go through 36 on election night because there's only one-way traffic. Again, it's to try to minimize connectivity to the internet with the inner workings of our secure system. And we do various testing on these systems, logic and accuracy on every piece of equipment that goes out to ensure that it's working and reading the oval positions on the ballots correctly. And everything we do is transparent. The public can come and watch us test. They can come to audits after the election. So we ensure that we create an environment to try to create trust. You can vote several ways in Ohio. Vote early in person, vote at the polls, but you can also vote by mail. Vote by mail sometimes gets a bad rap. It is a secure way of voting. In fact, it's how everyone in my office votes because we're a little bit busy on election day and we can't get to the polls. So it's what we use. And Ohio has a two-step process. Again, takes humans. You're filling out an application first and you're putting your identification, you're signing it. You're putting your date of birth, you're setting that in. Humans are verifying that. No automated verification of that information or no signature automation. It's humans doing that. Then you get a ballot. You send that ballot back. We go through that process again. So we're double. We check it on the application. We check it and with when the ballot comes back, but it's individuals doing it. We don't use any kind of technology to do signature comparisons. It exists, but we have the human factor to figure those things out. We also we have ballot tracking, which is a safeguard too for people. So whenever we process something, it does end up going to our website so someone can see that, but that's not our live website. Which when you go to our webpage, that's a copy. And so we take our information, we send copies over to the county IT folks who then post that again, so no one can get into the crux of our systems. There's no direct, there's an air gap there to ensure there's integrity in those systems. Next one, please. We have lots of different security measures. Everything is layered. So we have security cameras. We have card access into our buildings. We have physical security guards who are there whenever we're open to the public. Certain parts of the operation will require 2 employees to get into a room. So where the voting equipment is stored, where the tabulation server is, a Democrat and a Republican need to swipe separate card access to get into that room. They need to swipe within a short period of time. And only certain employees do I give authority to have that to be able to do that. So everything is limited. And what that does is it keeps a paper trail log of who has gotten into that room and when. When they log into the computer to do work on the tabulation server, a Democrat knows half the password, a Republican knows half the password. And then so one starts, and the next one come over and finishes, and that's what logs you in. Again, we know who the person is, who's on the system, when they are in there, and not one person can access that. So they can't get into the room by themselves, they can't get into the computer by themselves. So this layered approach to ensure that humans are doing the work, and they're doing it in bipartisan teams, so no funny business goes on.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. And so this doesn't talk about the integrity, but these are just some important deadlines that you need to be aware of. And another key thing is, as far as information, Board of Elections, our website's in a .gov domain. That's something that we have to apply for. I had to go put in for that. They did all kinds of background checks on me to make sure that I was legit in order to get those. And so that is the trusted source. Not anyone can just sign up for a .gov. There's a series of things you need to go through. And I know it must be pretty extensive because I did put in an application for a passport, and my family all did it at the same time. They tell you the passport comes in, I don't know, 4 or 6 weeks. I got mine in 2 days. The rest of my family, because they know everything about me already. But there are lots of safeguards in the system that humans are doing that, and it's not technology. But technology is good, as the professor said, and it's just how you use that.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. We really do appreciate it. It's now time for our questions and answers. Yes?
We just take a break for people who want coffee.
Okay, our coffee is ready if you want to go back and get a cup. That's a good thought. But now it is time for questions and answers. If you have a question, please raise your hand and speak directly into the microphone, because sometimes it doesn't carry as well as we'd like it to. So keep your question short, so we can cover as much as we can this morning. We have a lot of material here to cover. So who has the microphone? Oh, here. Okay. Oh, okay. So just talk to the person that has their hand up.
Like to wait until the doctor comes. Sorry. Well, the question I have has to do with a personal issue, and that is that A1's AI theory. It seems that there are a number of people that were after what little money I have, on the internet and on Facebook. And I think that AI will improve the chances that they're getting my money because I will be deceived. The doctor mentioned at the end of his presentation the things we need to do to protect ourselves. And I'd appreciate a little more depth on that if we could. I know, that's why I wanted to wait.
Director Perlatti, I'm very impressed by what you shared with us, and thank you. I appreciate that. I am concerned about what's going to be planned in Georgia. About every person in around the state almost being able to request all kinds of information and so forth. Is that concern you? You know what I'm talking about, I assume.
Is there any information in particular? Because we get public records requests all the time for information. So we have been inundated with records requests for years now. Everyone asking for everything under the sun. And what we have come up against is that there are certain organizations, groups, whatever it may be, who get scripts from that organization, and this is what you need to ask for, and go to your boards of elections and do that. Now, what either they want to ignore or they don't realize is that every state creates its own election rules, and so those are driven. So some of these things they ask for aren't even possible in our state for what they do. But when we get these records requests like that, everything we work with the prosecutor's office on what meets the standards of not being too vague, ambiguous, and all those. And so we push back, and when we need to say you need to define this further. And what we often find is that when individuals are getting those informations from groups, the group they haven't provided them with the next script. Okay, so if you get this response, this is what you do. So a lot of that dies. But we try to protect all the information that we can of our voters, of our poll workers, and all that information. Things like emails and phone numbers, we do not give those out. We keep that is information that is shielded from public records. And really, a lot of things are already on our website, things that people can get. So they can go to our voter registration roll and they get that information. A lot of the behind the scenes workings and things that would not make things secure are not provided and published. So, but we process everything we can. Now, if there's something more specific, please, I can give you more specific on that.
Dr. Ashton, a few minutes ago when you were not available, and that is how to protect myself from AI. I'm worried about people always trying to get the little money I have, and this happens on the internet and Facebook continuously. I think AI is going to make that an even more complex issue. At the end of your presentation, you said there were 3 things we could do. If you could elaborate on that, I would appreciate it.
So there is a lot of actually on social media illegitimate and outright fraudulent representation of investment opportunities, celebrity endorsements. So in general, I would stay away from any, just if you want to use social media, use it for entertainment only. Don't use it for any other information. Always, if there's an investment that you're interested in, go and talk to real person, certified, registered person. They still alive, and go and talk to them, and even though it seems convenient, right? And so I would first of all just stay away from social media as much as I can, because I think nowadays, so many of us who see these type of things can tell the difference to a degree. Now I have seen enough AI generated text. When I read it, oh, I think this was generated by AI, or this is a human written. As you saw, my voice didn't have any accents. So that's the sign, right? So like, no, I don't speak like that. I wish I can. So I think, when something is too good, too perfect, too smooth, chances are it might be AI generated, right? So I think those are some of the things that you should be careful about.
Thank you.
Can I just add on to that? So from a election perspective, so we use social media to push information just one way to educate individuals. So what we don't do is we don't send, we won't target an individual to, you need to give us this or that for the election purpose. Now, our poll workers, we will use text messages or robocalls and things, but we're not communicating with them through social media. So like from our operations in Cuyahoga County, when it comes to that, if somebody says, give me your ballot, because I'll get it down there, hi, this is the Board of Elections, you need to take it to this place or that place. We don't do that. So that's just in general, know that.
I have a question from our someone in our virtual audience. And she said, would the gentleman from the Board of Elections talk about the term bipartisan? How is that determined as it applies to election workers?
So in the state of Ohio, a person gets an official partisan affiliation by voting in that party's primary election. And so in even years, when you have a gubernatorial election cycle or a presidential election cycle, gubernatorial May, presidential March, you have those elections where you select a ballot from one of the two major political parties in Ohio, Republican or Democrat. And by getting that ballot and voting that ballot, that's how you get, in the eyes of the state of Ohio, that's how you get a partisan affiliation. And then, so what we do is when we are hiring employees to engage in processes, we are looking through that partisan affiliation that we have in our records based on their voting history. People are able to change their partisan affiliation, but it's not until the next partisan primary cycle comes up. So, so it's not what a person's, what the yard signs that they put in their yard or anything like that. It's based on that definition. One of the challenges that we have in Cuyahoga County and Ohio in general, but in Cuyahoga County, 72% registered voters don't have a party affiliation. They're unaffiliated. 72%. You have 10% are registered Republicans, 18% registered Democrats, and 72% unaffiliated. So, but that's what we do then. If we look at those voting records, and that's how we make our teams then of employees of the opposite political parties. And the theory is that not only you're doing your job, but you're making sure that the other person doesn't put their flavor or spin on their political ideals on the process and vice versa. I will tell you that does not go on in Cuyahoga County. You walk in the door, you are neutral, and you do your job. And but we do meet those requirements.
So I have two questions. One is a follow-up to what you were just saying. How many states have that system where we have to declare your party?
I don't know the answer to that. So I don't know. So states are different. I know in some states, individuals get their partisan affiliation when they register. They can mark it right on the registration card, and that's how they get it. And their primaries might be just all open primaries. So every state, and I don't know how many do each, but Ohio is not unique in how we get our partisan affiliation, but it's definitely it varies throughout the country.
My second question is about Mr. LaRosa's rule that somebody who is dropping off a ballot in the drop box has to go inside the Board of Elections to fill out a form. So how would anybody know that they are a designee and not the voter him or herself.
So Directive 2024-21 was recently published, and it is new. We have not had to deal with that previously. Cuyahoga County has had a drop box for over 10 years in our parking lot at our facility, and this is the first time. So there is a lot of gray areas in that directive. And so the ballot box is dumb. It is a metal box. So who approaches it, what they put in it, the box does not know. So I don't have a way to monitor that, because it's not like there's a person who camps out inside and reads, or there's barcodes that are testing or any of those things. So I will say what we have done, boards individually, and then there's the Ohio Association of Election Officials. That's a professional group that the Ohio board signed up for. We had a meeting just this past Thursday in which we came together with lots of questions to formally present to the Board of Elections to get some guidance on that. They will tell you at those meetings, I am the least shy person on the call. And so I was the first person to raise my hand, and I actually in advance submitted a list of questions that will be the basis to provide to the state, or has been provided to the state. And we've been told that we'll be receiving additional guidance, FAQ document or whatever it may be, to give us some instruction on that. Because it can just be a logistical nightmare for us operationally, difficult for voters trying to come down to know and don't understand what the enforcement rules are or things like that. So we are in the works of putting together our collection plan, doing something, again, trying to be creative to help people out and help the flow of voters who want to come down during business hours to drop off their ballot. But I don't have a lot of answers other than that drop box, again, is a dumb steel box, very secure, built like a tank. It's locked, it's under 24-hour security surveillance. And in fact, we have to, when we need people in the month where you can drop ballots, you can go online on YouTube and stream it and watch it, because we stream it. So if you're bored at 4 in, watch the drop box. But that's yeah, it was quite a shock in the election administration world, that directive.
Thank you. I'm concerned about lobbying and the power of artificial intelligence. I read an article recently that between 2021 and 2024, the number of lobbyists in Washington has more than doubled, and it's still rising quickly. Organizations like NVIDIA and other huge corporations are trying to legislate and pressure the Congress people to pass legislation that is in their favor. Have you had any information on this, or any, and the consumer groups, it's technically challenging to know what to ask for and to ask the government in terms of consumer protection.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts on this in terms of the power structure? Because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, so I'm not an expert on lobbying regulation, but from what I understand, particularly big tech side, the regulatory system is not working very well in general, the lobbying in particular. So there's a lot of opportunities for companies to exploit existing rules to take advantage of it. At the same time, I think it is a very complicated problem. So one has to take a little bit more nuanced position, because we are in a global competition with other countries. And, the United States happen to have all the leading tech companies, paving the way. So, on one hand, you do want to make sure that these companies don't do crazy stuff. But at the same time, you want to do it in such a way that we do not lose competitive edge against other countries, because NVIDIA could decide that we're going to go to China and we're going to just work there, and there's nothing you can really do about it. So I think those things need to be balanced out. When it comes to AI, much of earlier foundational work that we are currently using all came from Google's open source projects. So these were engineers and scholars, computer scientists, who actually went to Google because Google was very friendly to open source research. So everything that they have written were publicly available, so that people can scrutinize their algorithms, how it works, what it does, and so on and so forth. Since then, Open AI, which is not really open, has taken on and closed sourced it. So we do not know how these things work. Meta is a little bit better. They open source their models, but all the details of working are not available to others so that people can scrutinize. So what the society really needs is not only the regulations of these big tech companies, but more of a publicly funded these large language model or AI tools that truly open. The challenge is these things are extremely expensive to train. So NVIDIA is, their profit, percentage in the AI industry is, from what I heard, is like 120%, meaning that they are making more money than it is allowed, or available, because everybody else is losing money. And so a lot of it is because of the power, because of the chips, and in the United States, the power grid, and then the general electricity availability had not been invested over a long time. So all of these things add up. So on one hand, we all university professors and so on, we said we need a large public open source, publicly funded open source, but where the funding is coming. Just one AI computer, latest AI computer is $250,000, just one machine. And you need like a million of them. Like that's what Meta is doing. And how can any university or public sector entities can fund it on an ongoing basis? So, you could see that they're making that necessary investment on behalf of the public, and then some of them make it available for free, like Meta, at the expense of all of our privacy. So, I want to make sure that everything they do is not all good. So, but yeah, so that's the dilemma we have.
Thanks. Is it at all possible to have some kind of programming running, say, in the background of when you get on the internet, that would let you know if you're looking at or accessing anything that was created by artificial intelligence?
So there are techniques to watermark the content. Images are already, a lot of companies are doing it. So the human eye cannot see. They can actually embed certain digital signals into the images and voices and so on. So it actually says it is machine generated. So you could do that. Images are actually much easier. Videos are much easier to detect. Text is a little harder. Apparently, OpenAI has a technique to embed such content. They decided not to because it's not perfect. The reason that they didn't do it, and I can certainly sympathize it, is that these things have a false positive, meaning that it can actually say it was a machine generated when it was not. And predominantly international students whose English was not their first language got flagged. So this actually could have a pretty unbalanced, impact on certain groups of people in the society. So these are some of the things. So it's technically possible. It's actually difficult. some of the device companies, for example, camera manufacturers like Sony, they could actually certify this image was taken by our camera with the real person, and those things can be like a tamper free. And so, your photographer with the real camera, not iPhone, will actually can sell certain images like this is a human generated, not altered by machine. So technically possible, and I'm pretty sure there will be more solutions coming down. But then others will try to break it too. So
That's good.
I have two questions. The first being, in the beginning of your talk, you mentioned the importance of having good guardrails for the AI thing, and I'm curious if you have any buckets of the kinds of guardrails that would be helpful and appropriate for us to advocate for. And my second question is, just that I have found the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections staff to be just so helpful and genuine and wonderful. My question is, have they been subject to the kinds of things that we've seen in other places with harassment and doxing and that sort of thing? I hope the answer is no, but let's start with the guardrails first.
yeah, I mean, I think one of the most active area of research in AI is actually studying how to make AI safe, aligned with human values and safety. So and that itself is very technical work. So they design models, what we call reward models. So these are a separate model that is actually reacting to what the main model does and said that's not good, don't do it again, type of things, so that the main model learn based on the feedback it receives and during the training. And so that's one area. Again, the challenge is, human values are highly contextual people. We value diversity. So what may be very offensive and problematic in one context, let's say it is, comedy and someone says something, and then in that particular humorous context, it was just funny. But when that was taken out of context, that is extremely offensive. And so, doing that in an automated way and perfect way will be difficult. This is what we call in technology that what we call edge cases. These are cases that are long tail, very rare, difficult cases. Technology in most cases do work, but when they fail fantastically, and so that's what we pay attention to. Airplane, for example, fly very safely. Boeing, United airplanes, Boeing 737, never lost its door. It did once, and that's what everyone is focusing on. That's what happens. Now, of course, such a thing should never happen because it's very critically important. But that's also human psychology, right? So we remember more vividly one failure of this technology, and that's all we focus on. And that's where the challenge is from, the use of technology, design of the technology.
Thank you for your kind comments on our staff. I am blessed with the best staff in the whole state. They're awesome. We have not witnessed that, and hopefully we won't. You get people who get irate and upset, but not to the level of what's going on elsewhere. And I don't know why. I'm happy, but a hunch is that we are not a swing state like we once were. And so why they pay attention differently. And but people are pretty civil.
We have a couple of more really good questions from our virtual attendees. The first one, how does Cuyahoga County's extensive layers of security compare to other counties' procedures around the state? How can the public be confident that we have secure voting in Ohio when Ohio elected officials cast doubts on the safety of our election results?
the Secretary of State sends out directives that all boards of elections have to follow. And that does set minimum standards for security across the state. So we all are meeting those standards. At Cuyahoga County, we try not to live by the minimum being good enough. So we go above and beyond. So people should know that every board of elections, all 88 counties are operating at a minimum level, which is a good level. But again, we go above and beyond with that. As far as what I want is, I would hope that voters, that they listen to boards of elections, you listen to election administrators. We run elections. So even though your elected officials get elected through that process, a portion of them, sometimes a really good portion, they don't know how it works. They know what they need to do in order for them to appear to get on a ballot with petitions and all that. So, verify information, go to Board of Elections websites, try to find some nonpartisan organizations, like League of Women Voters and things like that. Get information there on some of our processes that we do versus the partisan bickering, because it is unnecessary. It is harmful to our industry, and it sows doubt into systems that shouldn't be. A lot of what we do, we've been doing for years. People just never thought about it until somebody told them to think about it. So yes, we do things better than we have. We always are, but we always have had great systems. So to be amazed how a lot of stuff we've been doing for 10 years.
There's one more for you, I believe.
Mhm.
Some registered voters confirmed by the Board of Elections have received letters saying they are removed from voter rolls. What is the source? Is it state of Ohio?
They receive letters that they've been removed from the
I
rolls.
think what the attendee is saying is that they're registered, but they've received letters saying that they've been removed from voter rolls.
So we will only send out letters. We sent out a notice telling individuals that they may not have activity and they're going to be placed on a list for potential removal 4 years down the road. And when 4 years comes, a month before that, we'll send a letter saying, hey, remember we sent you something 4 years ago. You haven't engaged in activity. So if you don't do something in the next 30 days, we will remove you, and then they will be removed. So that's what we do. But we can't control if other people are sending letters out that are not beyond us. So I would say if someone gets a letter and they're like, what the heck is going on here? The best thing you do is you go to our website, and with your name and your date of birth on our end, you can pull up your voter record that'll tell you if you're registered, where you're registered at, what address we have on file, what precinct you belong to, what your district inventory is that you would vote on. Do the work, go to the Board of Elections website, check it there, and then you have it firsthand. And if you don't want to go to the website, call us. We'll do the same thing in person. Don't guess.
Okay, that was our last question. We learned a lot about a very, very important subject. I'm sorry. We've learned a lot about, yes, it's all.
Dawn? Thank you.
Okay, we've learned a lot, and we really appreciate your expertise and time this morning. Our next forum will be 2 weeks from today, October 6th, again at 9 o'clock. The subject deals with Christian nationalism and how it is connected to Project 2025. Christian nationalism holds that America was founded as a Christian nation and that Christianity should dominate our laws, government, education, media, and other components of our life. Research shows that approximately half of the Trump supporters and followers support Project 2025 conservative agenda. Our speaker for this forum will be Reverend Marvin McMichael, Pastor Emeritus of Cleveland's famous Antioch Baptist Church. We hope you can join us either in person or virtually 2 weeks from today. You are welcome to attend our 10:15 service upstairs in the sanctuary or virtually on our YouTube page, uucleveland.org. The sermon topic is, what is worship? What is it that Unitarian Universalists try to achieve in a worship service? For example, what is the confidence when we use beginner's mind? And what do we want to nourish in ourselves and why? Reverend Randy Partain is our worship leader this morning. I do have one final suggestion. If you'd like to receive an email reminder of the forms we have every other week, please sign the clipboard on the circular table over here at the corner of this room, and give your email address to us, and we will put you on our reminder list. This forum has been recorded and will be available online if you want to share it with others next Thursday, again at uucleveland.org. Thank you again for sharing your time with us this morning.